How you been, man?
I've been doing well since the last time we talked. I've read a couple books.
Okay.
Done some research on how to edit videos.
Mm-hmm.
And just been keeping my nose out of trouble.
Yeah. How's your family doing?
Good. My wife's just working on her garden. Every day it looks greener to me. It looks better. My crazy daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just so smart. And she still does homeschool Monday through Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course my son just being a teenager, being stuck in his room. But other than that, man, can't complain.
Yeah.
You?
Yeah, we're doing good, man. We're same thing. The kids, their schedules with school is a little different, but they my wife's trying to get better at keeping them more on a consistent, schedule with the school work and stuff. But the little guy, he's still acting a fool.
Yeah, he's a wild card.
He is.
Let me tell you, he's just, I don't know, you might want to get him into sports.
Yeah. How do you get kids into sports?
Well, only if they show an interest.
Uh-huh.
I don't believe in forcing kids to do
Right.
stuff. Yeah, but just, I don't know, throw the ball around, see if he likes it, let him watch some sports, let him watch some UFC. You never know, it could be the next freaking badass fighter. But,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
The next Conor McGregor.
Man, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. We're just still, just work's still going good. Are you enjoying the time? Your time away?
I am.
Yeah.
And to be honest, the more time I spend away from work, the less I want to come back to work.
Yeah.
So I'm just I don't sit around and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna go back to school in the fall for another master's. But besides that, I'm just loving it.
Yeah.
To be honest, less stress.
I start back a month from today. Actually, I go I have a summer class starting up.
What class is that?
It's I don't know. It's one of for the MSW. It's one of it's working with groups.
Okay.
And then there's another class that's I'm taking two classes.
Mm-hmm.
One of them's working with groups, and then I think the other one's working with like diverse populations.
All right.
So yeah, it's
You
just
definitely already have experience with both of those.
dude,
Can't get much more diverse than
right?
what we do.
Yeah, man. You bring up a good point with working and taking a break from working what we consider a 40-hour work week. There's a lot of vets out there that think that they have to be engaged in a 40-hour work week job in order to be successful or to find fulfillment, right? So what would you say if somebody, is kind of, they're not happy where they're currently working, but they also want to continue to be, to continue to find fulfillment, but they don't necessarily want to put in 40 hours at a job every week. How do you go about, what would you say you go about, what's a good way to go about, finding that fulfillment, but also, building something into where you can at least be somewhat, we have to feed families, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's the first part. You if you're in a job you don't like, don't quit. Because you got to keep a roof over your head and everything else. Now, what you can do is work more towards whatever it is that you want to do or that you like to do. And for me, an example, I love psychology, so I had to go to school because you can watch all the videos and read all the books you want, but you're not credible until you have a piece of paper saying, I know psychology, whatever. Which led us to this job, which I quit recently, but which also allowed me to do something like this, which is my passion,
Mm-hmm.
which is helping give knowledge or perspective on mental health,
Mm-hmm.
and especially when it comes to veterans. So I would say don't. You have to be patient because I'm 44 years old and I'm finally at a point where I can do what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, I've been fortunate. First of all, my wife is retired Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not retired, but I get VA disability,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't live above our means.
Right.
We have okay cars, we have an okay house, but we're comfortable,
Yeah.
and we don't stress about money. So I was able to quit and still pay the bills.
Right.
It took time. So you might be 20 or 30 and know what your passion is, but you can't do it yet, and that's fine. But as long as you work towards your passion, that's the only way. Otherwise, you can't work a 40-hour job that you hate the rest of
Right.
your life. You'll never be happy.
Yeah.
And don't measure successes off other people's success. Because you take other people that earn a lot of money, you don't know how their life really is. Are they really happy? Do they really feel successful?
Right.
No.
You think that they, a lot of times, we live in this era of social media, and so there's always a constant comparison going on.
Yep.
Like I still look at guys that I was in the service with that are still on active duty, and they're senior NCOs now, and I'm like, man, like what might have been, or I look at guys that they got out, and they got they found crazy success through something, and it's easy to kind of get caught up in that comparison game.
Yeah.
And to look at them like, well, the hell, they're better than I am.
We all do that.
Yeah.
I think that's just part of nature, especially for adults, because the way society or actually social media plays out, we want what they have.
Right.
But a lot of stuff is fake.
Yeah.
They might be standing in front of a Lamborghini that said it's theirs, but how do we know that?
Right.
Or how do we know they're happy? See, one thing we don't focus on is what can you do to be not only happy, but what can you do to keep joy in your life?
Yeah.
And can you keep up? If you're a model, are you always going to be able to be a model?
Right.
If you're a football player, can you play football for 30 years?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
So I hope people that are in a position that have money right now are looking at the future to maintain the lifestyle they have.
Yeah. Investing, right?
Investing, saving, not buying just because you have the money.
Right.
It's so tempting. Shoot, just going to HEB, waiting for the cashier, all the stuff that they have right there. I don't need, but what happens ends up in my basket.
Yeah. 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 I hope that I know that we're still new at this, and we hopefully we'll just get better as we progress.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully somebody out there that sees this eventually will be like, hey, the space y'all are using is freaking terrible. Like, we got some digs that you guys can come, shoot at. So maybe, there's a lot of things a lot of ways to grow. I mean, just to continue to get better and better with certain things. But, I know before we were discussing a little bit about, and you touched on it just a second ago with like the mental health piece, and how have you been doing as far what is when you have a bad day and there's something that triggers a thought in your mind and you're just kind of it takes you back to a very negative place. What are some things what are some of your coping skills that you've learned over the years?
My self-care, when we used to go to lunch, what was my self-care? Talking about whatever bothered me. Got out of my system and went back to work. I do that. I've not always been like this, but now if something's bothering me, I don't hold it in anymore. I go and I talk to my wife. And no matter how stupid I feel or whatever, just talking about it, get it off my chest, and realizing that what I'm worried about really shouldn't be a worry. That's my self-care. And that's what, for the longest time, I didn't share with anybody. I would just hold it in, hold it in. And you know, when you hold in your anger or your fears or whatever triggers you, eventually it's going to come out.
Right.
And it can be either negative or positive. And if you're holding it, it's going to be a negative. The behavior is going to be a blatant, I don't care because I feel this way.
Yeah.
So my personal self-care, and self-care can be different for everybody, is to talk to somebody I trust, that I know is not going to judge me.
Yeah. I think it's easy, right? Like we get in this mindset of being very judgmental of others' behavior. You know, like I mean, you see somebody that's a knucklehead, and they go out and they do a bonehead, whatever, whether it's they get a DUI or you know whatever. I mean, we all make mistakes, but it's easy to kind of get that negative stereotype placed on you, you know. And then as a veteran, that we're judged even more so because you know. Disgruntled veterans, you know, like it's easy, you know, veterans are, you know, crazy and all these things. So, for me, I've been doing pretty good the past few months. What I tend to do, just through, you know, most of my stressors comes from work related. Yes. Like 90% of my stressors come from like work related.
But can I add that's because you have a passion with
it? Yeah, I mean, and I've been told that a lot. You know, like you're passionate. You know, but still, like it's. There's a lot of things I have to work on with like my behavior and how I react to certain things. But you know, a lot of the stressors. If a lot of my stressors come from work related, and then my decompression time is when I get home and spend time with the family and laugh and joke. For me, I have to figure out how to, when I'm feeling something that's going to push me to a limit in the workspace, I have to take a break, you know, like you said, going to lunch and just kind of decompressing. It splits the day in half, so it kind of, you can decompress a little bit during that time frame. But for me, like I think I walk around a lot, you know. I mean, you know, where we work is a big facility, and so like for me, just the back and forth. Like if I have to go to the other side of the facility to achieve something, that decompression time is the walking back and forth, and so that helps me. Physical exercise helps me. I think for me, getting up and, you know, I spend a lot of time in a gym at first thing in the morning. So for me, starting the day off in that healthy mindset is very beneficial. How's your health doing? I know you had some health scares there. Yeah. How's things going with that?
I've lost about 15 pounds since I came out of the hospital. My diabetes is well under control now. And I couldn't have done that still working.
Right.
Because I'm a stress eater. So when I get stressed, I eat. And eat what's bad for me. Because I figured out my drug of choice is sugar. And there's been studies that show that sugar triggers the same things in your mind or your brain that's triggered when you take cocaine.
Yeah. It's an upper. I mean, it's a speed essentially.
Yeah. So being able to be at home and having a buddy, my wife, keep me honest, and my daughter, because she watches what I eat, it's been beneficial. Not to say that I couldn't do that here, but to be honest, I've never had the willpower to stop eating sugar before like I did now. Yeah. And so health-wise, I'm doing well. I'm eating a lot better. And the next thing is I need to incorporate exercise because I'm not young anymore, and I've noticed a lot of weight I've lost is muscle mass. Not that I had much muscle before, but
right.
But I'm weaker. I'm weaker essentially because I haven't been using the physical muscle. Now mentally, I'm sharper now than I've been in a long time, and I really think that's related to eating. And they in psychology we also believe gut health is also related to mental health.
Yeah.
But I've been doing a lot better. In unfortunately I needed that scare. I needed the hospital stay to kick myself in the butt. Because at this job I figured I was helping people more than I was helping myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very contradictory to what I've told a lot of my clients on the therapy side.
Yeah.
Because I often say, how can you take care of somebody else if you can't take care of yourself first?
Yeah.
And man, sitting in the hospital having that time, and I could only have visitors for 3 hours a day, so for 19 hours or whatever it was a day, I had nothing but time to myself.
Yeah.
And being hypocritical was a problem for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I see. I think you see that a lot in any of the helping professions. You always, when I don't know about you, but I know anytime I'm sitting in a like an exam room for like a physical or whatever, and the doctor walks in, they're 300 pounds, and I'm just like, so this person's gonna like help me stay physical, like it's just
Talk to you about diet.
right, and I think it's just, but they're technically we're in I guess a helping profession in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think anybody that's in a profession where you're helping others, be the best version of themselves they can be, you do spend more time on their benefit, them being that helping them be more, beneficial and helping them be more, proactive versus you don't spend as much time, on you.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's super easy, man, just to, drive through a drive-through, get food. You don't have to get out of your car. And
Yep.
the processed foods that we consume as a society is ridiculous.
Yeah. We're killing ourselves with food.
Yeah.
And we have so many people, there's so much food available that's not good for you.
Mm-hmm.
I can guarantee you a lot of people that are obese are malnutritioned.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just getting empty calories.
Mm-hmm.
They're just consuming this empty, So what would you say the direct correlation is with mental health and physical health? Like is it more important than what we think it is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's you can't have one without the other.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's why there's a lot of psychologists in the sports realm. Because you could be physically fit, but you limit yourself mentally.
Mm-hmm.
So, if for example, in basic training, we did like a 34K ruck march at Fort Knox,
Mm-hmm.
and my barrier was that I was so short compared to everybody else. Just think, the average person that was a tanker is like your height or taller.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
At least the group I was in,
Yeah.
they were huge. So to keep up with them, I had to do almost a run, and then the drill sergeants be saying, "Don't run." So I was physically capable,
Mm-hmm.
but mentally, I was shooting myself in the foot by saying, "I can't do this."
Yeah.
But eventually you do it. You don't have a choice. But that's when I figured out that you got to have a balance of both. So it's also, when you eat clean, you eat right,
Mm-hmm.
your blood pressure is better, your sugar levels are better, your nutrition is better, and it all feeds the brain first.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really think that has a lot to do with mental health, because if you don't take care of your body, your mental health is going to decrease too, because then you're open to more depression, anxiety. Like you said, you work out in the morning, that should kill your anxiety for most of the day.
Should, right?
Should, yeah. It's not always going to,
Yeah.
but if you didn't do it, imagine how you would
Yeah.
be the rest of the day. So yeah, they're definitely lined up, and there's a lot of science to back that up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think just in when we start looking at just the veteran population as a whole, we have this. It's like a subculture within
Yeah.
a culture, and you go, especially somebody that does 20 years and then retires, and a handful of people that are in that environment, they're able to continue being physically active. But I think the vast majority of us, on the moment we don't put those boots on anymore, we're just kind of like, I don't have to do it.
I did that. Shoot, and I've been out since what, 05? So I haven't been in military shape
right
in a long time. But I do remember, man, at some point I was so physically fit. I felt literally invincible. At times. So, and man, I had a mental tenacity like you wouldn't believe. I haven't had that in a long time.
No, man. And for me, a lot of times, people you hear people that go to the gym a lot and working out, but for me, it's a very selfish thing for me because I have to maintain a certain weight to be able to wear a prosthetic leg. And so for me, it's the being physically active is a benefit, but if I didn't have to do it to just walk daily, I probably I don't know. There's other things I'd rather get up at 4:30 and do, or not get up at 4:30 at all.
Well, there's a lot of power in the words you choose. You said working out is selfish, but selfish and self-care start with the same word, self. Is it really selfish to take care of yourself?
It is a good way. I think it is. It's a good selfish.
So when we feel selfish, I'm hearing like guilty. You feel guilty, and we all do. But if you don't take care of yourself, like I said, who's gonna take care of you?
Right. And if you're not the best version of yourself, then how can you inspire others to be the best versions of themselves?
Your kids are gonna be in your shadow. So it's not selfish. Self-care is not selfish, never. Now, if you use an excuse to get away from stuff, if you use an escape to, I got friends that will go to the gym for 3-4 hours. I'm like, that's an excuse to get away from
right.
That's different. You do an hour, 30 minutes, that's what it's supposed to be.
Right.
You shouldn't be, unless your livelihood is working out, which is possible, you still have a life to live. You can't run away from them. But
you definitely do. I can see how there's a lot of people that they're escaping their maybe life circumstances or whatever, and they're kind of using exercise as their scapegoat maybe.
Well, going back to veterans, man, we escape naturally because a lot of us feel like our best times of our life were when we were active duty. Because you do things that, like, have you seen Big Trouble in Little China? We do things nobody else can do.
Right.
We see things nobody else should see. And we make up, 1% of the population?
At any given time,
So, coming from a life that's full of endorphins, highs, fight or flight, like real fight or flight, not like I'm scared that somebody's gonna break into my house. We're scared we're gonna get shot. When that stuff, it's like being on drugs and being taken off of it immediately. So a lot of veterans, we have reasons to run away. But it's right or wrong, I don't know, but that's the life we live.
It is, So one of the biggest things, did I ever tell you that book? I read this book. It was called Talking to Strangers. I don't know if I ever mentioned it to you, but one of the things that I'm seeing kind of just as a norm, right, with the pandemic and this new way that we just kind of are isolating ourselves, and we're not physically in the presence of people like we used to be. And what's the dangers with that? Like if you're just isolating yourself to the extent of the only interaction that you're having is if you work in a people first place and you have to deal with people on a daily basis. But what about these folks that because there are a lot of people that are working from home right now, and what's the is there a correlation with their like, are we seeing higher levels of anxiety amongst, just the general public? And because there's a lot of times, I mean, there's people out there, I'm sure that they could wake up in the morning, work from home, do their 8-hour day, log off, and then, and they can go days on end without seeing anybody.
Yeah. I think one thing that we lost by working online is purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that is when we come into work, we have a routine. We get dressed, we drive to work. We say, you come in the morning, hey, good morning, whatever. Yes, it's pomp and circumstance. However, when you don't have that anymore and you start your day at 8 o'clock, so it means you can get up at 7:55 to get online.
Mm-hmm.
You've lost the purpose of waking up almost.
Yeah.
And then you go weeks, months, however long you go without actually physically talking to somebody. You're gonna lose the social skills. You're gonna lose the ability to have conversations with people. You end up going to the store and you just are on your phone. You don't look up. You don't talk to anybody. And that's not how we're meant to be, because when it comes to mental health, if you don't have somebody to talk to physically touch, we're not meant to be non-social creatures.
Right.
Matter of fact, there's studies that show that early gatherings would be of about 100 or less, because they say we have the capacity to remember 100 people well. And so smaller communities are important. That's what I'm saying. We live in a community with millions of people here.
Right.
But you have to have your circle of people that you can bounce stories on and stuff like that, because number one, you can learn stuff from other people.
Yeah.
If you're open to criticism, you can learn stuff about yourself. And it's also a buddy check.
Yeah.
We started off this conversation with a buddy check. How you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't ask it to each other because it's just pomp and circumstance. We're asking because we're really concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And you lose that when you live off of Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's dangerous. And then that's the example we're setting for our kids now. So our kids are like in a developmental phase where they're seeing this is a norm, not a new norm. They don't know a new norm. This is their norm.
Yeah.
So I don't know what effects it's going to have on these children.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be negative, but there's not enough data to tell. But I can guarantee you, isolation is not good for people.
Yeah, and when you think about, like, if your only interaction with somebody else is through a social media outlet, you're only seeing what they want you to see as the best version of themselves at that moment in time.
Or they become very courageous because they're typing and can say what they wouldn't usually say in person.
Yeah.
People can make comments, and it can either be unclear, so they misunderstand what you say, or they could say something to you they wouldn't say to you in person.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
So you just brought up, so that the entire foundation of that book, Talking to Strangers, it is, I think it's Malcolm Gladwell, I believe, is the writer of it. I don't know, I have to look, but that's what it touches on, the entire book. You're only this idea of we don't understand what somebody is saying.
Right.
And so by us not understanding what they're saying, like, we're only hearing what we think they're saying. And we're not like, hey, can you clarify that?
Yeah.
Like, because what I heard,
you're missing cues, you're missing inflection in voice, you're missing body language, you're missing eye contact, you're missing a lot of things that you get when you're in person versus writing it down without having a true description of what's going on in the mind.
Yeah, and for me, like, I'm very sarcastic, in general, and so I'm very sarcastic online. I'm very sarcastic in person. I'm very, at times I can be, just an a-hole,
right.
So people that don't know that about me and they see, this version are like, wow. And so that's just, you're just going to, well, I'm never going to associate with that jackass,
right.
But that's good, man. So that's like and so I think that we've been isolated. We're living off of this online digital platform of communicating with people. We're not going out and being in gatherings with people. A lot of that was by law there for a period, but a lot of people, the more and more this whole herd immunity or whatever, the more and more these numbers start dwindling. It's going to be interesting to see, because I think there's a lot of people that are just going to stick with what's going on now because it's
my
easy.
wife is one of them.
Yeah,
she has no problem staying at home, and
it's easy.
Yeah, it's easy. It's less stressful. You think,
right?
But you're causing stress in your life by not having face to face.
Yeah,
and I hope it'll change soon.
Yeah,
I know for my kids, we're making them go to actual physical school in August.
Yeah,
because I really think they need to gain social. You can't learn how to be a friend with just your parents and your siblings at home.
Right.
You gotta have heartbreak. You gotta figure out people you call friends are not your friends.
Right.
All the time.
Yeah.
You gotta figure out what really is a friend. You can't do that being at home.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, man. I think that we're just, that everyone always talks about the this whole idea of the veterans and the suicide and
22.
Yeah, 22 a day, man, and it's I personally I was almost one of those casualties. I was at a dark place in my life, and it's what helped me was for me personally, there was a faith aspect involved and there was a spirituality aspect involved, but there was also I was only surrounding myself with negativeness,
Yes.
and that's not to say that the people that I was surrounding myself with were negative, but I was hiding behind this facade of you want people to look at you and just be like, yeah, he's got it all together, and so that's fake. It's not real.
It's fictitious.
Yeah.
I didn't get to the point where I felt like suicidal, but I did have remorse of questioning why I'm still alive if my friends aren't.
Right.
And that was hard to go through.
Yeah.
Because for years, I didn't couldn't work because anything would set me off.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't talk about it. They show it in movies, but they show, the way they show the military and veterans in the movie doesn't do it justice. Because number one, we're not all superheroes.
Right.
Number two, there's help out there, and this might lead into a conversation we had earlier. There's help out there, but we don't know it.
Right.
Nobody comes and tells you, hey, you're out in the military. You can go counseling here, and this is why. You can go counseling here, and these are all free services.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you're disabled or even whatever. You can get counseling from the VA for free.
Yeah.
Now the problem I have with myself working here is not pushing that enough.
Right.
And which is crazy. Another thing that I realized while I'm in the hospital, another hypocritical thing is, I'm not a social worker, I'm a counselor.
Right.
Why wouldn't I every day ask you, hey, have you talked to your therapist?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, do you want to talk now?
Yeah.
No, I didn't do that. I would offer it to them. Okay, I offered it, do a case note. I'm good, I'm covered.
Yeah.
That's not right.
Right. Well, but do you think that some of that was just the volume of people that you were having to engage with?
Yeah, and that's a good excuse, but it's really stemmed off of my first experience seeing a counselor in a VA. So one thing that I learned from school is you have to have a relationship with your counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say relationship, I don't mean physical or nothing like that. What I mean is you got to be able to trust them.
Yeah. And
you got to have something in common. So the counselor I was seeing, she was probably a great counselor, but not for me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know any better at the time. This was in 2012. And honestly, I was just going to counseling to get my rating.
Yeah.
But she was she was about 30 years older than me, different generation. She was female, she was white, and she was not a veteran.
Yeah.
What did we have in common, man?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
How's that gonna help? And I didn't know, now I know now for people watching, if you have a therapist or a counselor that you don't get along with, find another one. Don't quit. Find another one until you find that person. The first 2 or 3 sessions should be relationship building. And that's how we're trained. But unfortunately, you do it long enough and it becomes, okay, this person's blocked out for an hour, I got an hour with them.
Yeah.
But the relationship has to be there.
Yeah.
That's why I think you talked about doing groups. Man, what better group to be in than another group of veterans where we all have something in common. It didn't matter what color, race, whatever. We're all veterans. And I think we need more of that.
Yeah, I got a guy that a guy I've known for a few years now, and he works for an organization that they work specifically with veteran groups, and it's primarily geared towards like PTSD and just working through trauma. One of the things that we don't do enough of in our society is we don't look at how traumatic events shape us.
Right.
We don't, we look at somebody because there's a lot of people that, certain traumatic events take place in their life and they're not able to, there's a handful of people that aren't able to bounce back from certain events, and they begin going down a negative rabbit hole that usually lasts for the rest of their life, unless they reach out to somebody to be proactive about changing it. I really hope that we can, get this idea of, just the veteran community. We have to be better at just, getting together and socializing and being open with each other. Like you said, you have to build trust, you have to build rapport. I mean, you have to, I knew from the get-go, I think we started working together, I think it was like last October, November time frame. And
we met at Randolph.
Yeah.
The first time.
That's right, yeah. And sometimes you just know, there's just a genuineness between two people, so for our situation, it wasn't really, there wasn't a lot of complications with it. And I think with our team in general, when we were all working together, like there wasn't, I think we gelled very well, but you don't always get that.
We were a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
Jeez, we're the best working team I've been on almost since I was a young adult.
Yeah, I feel the same way, man. Like it was just of course we all individually have bad days, but for the most part we trusted each other.
And we joked around about it too.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there goes John, he's having another day.
Yeah.
But it's true.
Yeah.
In a way, we're acknowledging it.
Right.
Okay, Johnny having a shitty day. Handle it how you want to handle it.
Yeah.
We'll recover tomorrow. What do you need me? What can I do for you to relieve the pressure? That's great to have, right?
It is great.
It
is great to have. Yeah. And I think that we just get caught up, not just veterans specifically, but I think it happens more so in the veteran community. We just get caught up in this 9-to-5 mindset, and you just show up to your job, and you're spending a majority of your week at this place if you're working full time. And like you said, if it's bringing you down or setting you up for just to be just negatively impacted for prolonged periods, man, you got to find something else.
Yeah.
I mean, but so let's say you got a guy who's transitioned out of the service, and you always hear what do you want to be when you grow up, right? Like, I mean, I'm still trying to get to that. I still don't know what that is, but how do you help somebody kind of look at that? Like, what do you say to people that are like, what do you want to do?
You gotta have a real conversation with them.
Yeah.
And be realistic. You can't have somebody come out and be like, just say I want to be a millionaire. Like, okay, that's great.
Right.
How are you gonna get there?
Yeah.
Do you have a plan for that?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I say that is like, figure out what your passion is, and figure out how you can do that for a living.
Yeah.
It sounds easy, but it's hard.
Oh God.
Because think about it, like I had no clue what my passion was until about 5 years ago. And even then, I didn't know if I could do it because I'm not a studious person, so I wasn't sure about school. So another conversation you got to have is like, is your passion going to provide for you?
Right.
Because you have to make a living.
Yeah.
You got to be honest with yourself. You say, can I take a pay cut going from 40 to 20 until I get to the point where I want to be? I would hope the answer is yes. So, and being veterans, we have, to be honest, if any veteran that doesn't take advantage of GI Bill is really losing a lot of money.
Yes. Yes.
Because where else can you get? You did your time. Go to school, have your school paid for it, and you get your housing at an E5 rate. You're basically getting paid to go to school. Why wouldn't you at least get a bachelor's?
If you're listening, listen to this information. This is very important. School. It doesn't have to be it doesn't even have to be a 4-year degree, baby.
Yeah, get you
want to be a mechanic?
Trade. Yeah, technical.
You want to get a technic? Yeah, we're lacking in a lot of ways in a lot of these technical fields right now.
Yeah.
Because as a society, we've just been like 4-year education, 4-year education, 4-year education.
Not for everybody.
No.
And it's so dang expensive. If you do a 4-year education at a state school like UTSA, you can be what? By the time you're done, I don't know, 80,000 in debt.
Yeah.
Who can pay that off?
Right.
Just coming out of school with no experience.
Right. Yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
Now, for me, like there were certain jobs just physically I was no longer going to be able to do, and so I kind of chose a route.
Well, I don't know, man. I seen you pick up the air conditioning unit and take it upstairs. So.
That's a secret, man. We don't talk about that. But for me,
I seen you run after something.
it was a fast paced walk. But for me, it's you have to know your limits, right?
Yes.
Know your margins of where you're going to look for in, and this is information that now I had some phenomenal people in my life when I was transitioning out that really helped guide me and helped point me down a direction that they thought that I might be good in, and it paid off, because what their recommendations were, I initially was going to go to St. Mary's here in San Antonio and get my a degree in psychology, my undergrad, but I had some people say, like, unless you're going to go on and get a doctorate, or you want to go to med school down the road and be a psychiatrist, more than likely, it's not going to open a ton of doors. And so that's kind of how I chose the social work route.
Yeah.
Now you've gotten you went ahead and did your master's in that realm, and really without a master's degree in any of these social services, you're not going to really, you're just not going to get paid a lot. I mean,
well, in social work, in both therapists, if you're looking for money, you're in the wrong realm. We don't get paid well. However, that's another benefit of we're able to do this because we have other benefits that we get from the VA.
Yes. Yeah.
So another way to do your passion. You got to sacrifice. You could get a master's right now. Working on a master's in social work, you can get an MBA instead and go earn $100,000 a year easily. But would you be happy? I don't know.
Yeah.
Only you know.
Yeah. Man, I think this has been some good dialogue. I think it's important that we kind of have these discussions because there's probably a lot of people that are maybe sitting there and thinking shoot, they're just stuck.
Yeah. We've both been there. We've both been stuck.
Yeah, and it's a cycle, right? I mean, I think that there's just because there's still times in my life. For me personally, I don't know what it is, but you get towards the holiday season, pretty much right after October or right after Halloween, you start getting into the the cooler months, which you would think would be glorious here in South Texas, but you start, for me, I don't know what it is, but I kind of go in this funk right before Thanksgiving. And usually it kind of lasts through like the beginning of the new year. And
how long have you been like that?
I would say a large chunk of my adult life. This was even back when I was on active duty. Like you would think that this should be like a real, you would think it's a happy time, you know. And don't get me wrong, I love being able to take time off work and spend time with my kids and my family, my wife. But it's just this like it's an ebb and flow, you know. And like I just kind of go in this little bit of a it's a downward trend, and it almost happens every year. Now I don't know if I tell myself, well, it's probably coming again, so maybe that's not, you know, I'm psyching myself out, so I'm not combating it. But I think we all just go through these periods throughout, you know, you're never going to be just 100% all the time, right?
Yeah, and that's normal.
That is normal.
Ups and downs are normal. Without ups and downs, you're a liar.
Yeah.
If you say you have no ups or downs, I'm sorry, you're lying.
Yeah.
Probably to yourself.
Yeah. Well, if you're lying to yourself, then you're lying to everyone else too, you know.
Well, just a quick reflection on what you go through during the winter months. It's actually more normal than you think. A lot more people go through a state of, I wouldn't say depression necessarily, because if you're depressed, you wouldn't want to come into work or have to do it. So I would say, if it's a cycle, you really need to figure out how to stop the cycle and start another cycle, a positive cycle.
Yeah.
So you gotta really see where it stems from.
Do you think that it has something that, I mean, you know, I'm not really smart enough to really understand like the earth and the axis of the earth and you know how the
magnetic pool.
Yeah, they say that there is scientific evidence out there, I'm sure, that kind of, you know, again, for us, you would think in South Texas, coming out of the hot season everyone's happy, you know, but it's almost like, I don't know, it's just, or maybe it's expectations. Do you think I set these expectations on myself? Like, you know, we're going to do this, and, you know, we're just going to.
Could be self-imposed. But also remember in the winter months, we're actually further away from the sun. And as you know, people that live in Alaska that have a substantial amount of time without sun go through depression.
Yeah.
And so they have like artificial ways to enhance that with lights and stuff. That might be part of it, but I'm guessing it's a behavior you have that's just become cyclic for you. It's a cycle for you. So you got to think about, you know, like what happened to start this cycle.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of times just dealing with that will take the cycle away.
Yeah.
And also just, you know, as long as your wife and your close friends know about it, and you know, not saying they can help out, but just sharing it is going to help you out too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just every year, huh?
Yeah, it's weird, man. It's just you know, it like I said, it usually happens early November, and it kind of just stems through the holidays.
Deaths that came around?
Not that I recall. No, not like as a child and stuff. Like you're just growing up.
Or a child, or
no.
Santa Claus forgot to visit you. Yeah,
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a deep one though. But you definitely want to look at that because you don't want that going on into your the rest of your life.
Right.
That's not cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, shoot, man. I think that we've probably been at it now for a period.
I have no clue. But yeah, it was a good conversation, and
Yeah.
I think the rest of our shows will be like this. So.
Yeah.
So.
Hopefully we can get some. You know, there's a couple resources that I'm going to reach out to maybe get some space that would be a little bit more aesthetically appealing. Because this is just freaking bland.
Yeah, this is low budget, man.
This is no budget. Like, and so I think that just finding having something that's a little bit more aesthetically appealing, and the more we do it, just bringing people on like subject matter experts. Like
Yeah.
you're well versed in like therapy and counseling. Me, I'm just well versed in talking a lot. So I have no problem being the MC.
Oh yeah.
But for me, I think that as we bring people on here that are well versed in certain areas, it's just gonna, because all we're trying to do is just,
spread information.
Spread information. That's it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great organizations that are currently doing a lot of great things
Yes.
here in San Antonio, and I think as a whole, it takes all of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of sports programs for veterans, outdoors, hunting. There's all these different things. I know for me personally, one of the areas that was lacking as I've been, just getting older, is stuff like this where there's these open dialogues.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times, I know we've had this discussion before, like sports, being outdoors, whether you're outdoors hunting with buddies and friends, that opens up dialogue, and there's conversations that are had, and so that's a great avenue to utilize as a way to try to just get yourself communicating with others.
My favorite situation to talk in is at a campfire.
Oh yeah.
Something about fire,
Yeah.
it brings out the conversation in me, and it brings out memories, good and bad, and I don't know, I could just flow. I don't even have to look at the person. I could look at the fire, and it's so elementally pleasing. Like, I think we should go camping. I think we should do a show around a campfire.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. I got
or any kind of fire. But
yeah. We have we have some we'll just bring a couple hot spots, so we have a little bit of that would be the only reason we would want any technology, so we can at least, that'd be good, man.
Yeah.
I think that would be awesome.
That would be a good live stream.
Yeah.
But we have plans, y'all. We have plans.
We do.
So it's just to cover some stuff that we talked about. Yes, we talked a lot about mental health, but let's go back to the GI Bill.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best way to get started using the GI Bill?
So if you know how to log into your e-benefits account, that's where you're going to get all of the information. You want to think that it's super user friendly, but it's not necessarily if it's your first time. So, or if you need help getting access to your e-benefits, go see a VSO, a Veteran Service Office.
Also, a lot of colleges and universities have like a VA representative, not working for the VA, but they do the GI Bill. They can help you out with that too. So a lot of times you just tell them you're a veteran, they'll hook you up with them automatically too.
Yep.
But don't be afraid to go to school, man. If you have an honorable discharge, just about any school will take you in without a test, so if you don't know that, you don't have to take your SAT or your PSAT or PST, whatever it's called. So anybody can do one class at a time. I don't care how long it takes.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're interested in something, and it's free.
Yeah.
So
there's a buddy of mine right now. He's about to graduate with his bachelor's, and I think he's been taking classes towards his bachelor's since like '98. So anybody,
I've been taking classes towards my bachelor from 2005. I didn't graduate till 2018.
Yeah.
And then it took me a couple years to do my master's. That's crazy. But it takes, I don't care if it takes you 20 years, because really what you're learning is you're learning how to think.
Yeah.
It's not like high school.
Right.
You actually got to be a thinker.
Yeah.
And I think that's a benefit.
Critical thinking.
Critical thinking, yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, we will, like we said, we're going to get, better at this. We're going to bring people a lot smarter than we are on here, hopefully down the road, get people to open up, to just share information, share ways that, ways that we can just be, better as a veteran society here in this subculture here in San Antonio. So
I'll leave a link to e-benefits in the description.
Okay.
And just want to thank our audience, whoever's watching Project Delta X-Ray.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right, man.